Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
I've lost. There we go. Good, great start there onto a live stream with the mic dropping out. Anticipated the swear words coming out early. But anyway, Evening Rush Nation, we are back. We are back with some review of night 1 of the NFL draft. I'm not alone. We got some people joining me. First of all, Danny, how are you? How is the Emerald Isle?
Yeah, all good. I'm looking forward to this one today.
Yeah, well, you would be as a Giants fan who didn't, for once in their lives, goof their draft picks, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I suppose with not being fantasy relevant, we're not really talking about them too much. But yeah, I'm very happy with the draft so far.
And then also joining us, who isn't currently in the Emerald Isle but hails from the Emerald Isle, is the phenomenal Conor, otherwise known affectionately as Hotseat Mags or Dynasty Hotseat. Mags, how you doing, buddy? Welcome back. How are you? You must, as well as a Chiefs fan, be delighted with the draft picks that your team made last night.
Yeah, really pleased about the draft picks. Got me in a good mood, excited for round 2, but more excited to be back in 5 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Between our teams made 5 picks last night. All of them pretty good picks. All of them we're delighted about. I'm very happy with Ruben Bain. Danny's happy with his pick. I mean, like, I think all in all, I think we're all pretty pleased with what happened. But no one cares about our teams. They care about their fantasy teams. Before we get into that, Max, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to this off season. You're obviously the Dynasty Hot Seat. You've been doing a lot of mocks, a lot of prep. Like for this is like almost like the crowning glory of all the work that you do in the off season. But tell us what you've been up to. Tell us sort of what your thoughts have been on the draft as well.
Yeah, so it's, the Dynasty Hot Seat is built on mock drafts. So I think I've done upwards of 30 mock drafts up until this point. We started in August, if you could believe, all the way back then. And we've just been mock drafted, getting through as many of these mocks as possible. And now there's a fun part, Murph, because you get to rip up all the notes that you made. The draft capital kind of screws up everything, but I do try every year to not let it change things too much. I try and keep my head low. Remember what people said before. Remember who you like. Don't try and let it sway you too much. So that's been the gulf of it. And maybe the most fun thing I'm doing right now is rebuilding the worst dynasty fantasy football team ever. We're into year 3 of the rebuild, and I know a lot of people say it shouldn't take you 3 years. Go watch some of the videos. You'll see why it's year 3 of the rebuild. I mean, we started off with Jimmy Garoppolo as the starting quarterback, Murph. Can you believe that? So we got Jaden Daniels now, so we're doing all right.
I mean, he's better than some of the starting
quarterbacks. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, he'd start for the Browns, for example. We'd probably start for quite a few teams. So it'd definitely start for the Cardinals. It'd probably start for the Falcons. Anyway.
We should pick him up off the wire again, actually. We'll get him back.
Yeah, there you go. Like, he's going to get a gig. But no, definitely check out that series. Do you think that team's going to make the playoffs this year?
Depends. We got the 104, which I was excited about before. Maybe a little bit less now. We'll see how things shake out. We have the 104 pick, and we've got another pick at the start of the second round. But the strategy from the start was, just knowing the game and knowing what was coming up, we tended to try and avoid the 26 class and put all our eggs in the 27 class basket, which is proving to be a good decision, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely a class that I think people were really excited about early 2024, maybe even early 2025. But I think it's getting harder and harder to predict draft classes because of the portal, because of NIL. I mean, there is a point that to people like Denzel Boston's probably taking a pay cut on what he would have earned in college on the contract that he's going to get. This is now a legitimate point that players who gamble on going in the NFL better make sure they go early in the first round, because if they're falling into day 2 or even day 3, they're losing money. They're turning down real money to come into the NFL. Now, you get that longevity, you get pensions and all of that sort of stuff, but we're in an era now where the pros are not going to earn as much as what they could earn in college. It's very much the Wild West out there, and I think it will change back in a few years. So, but for this players in the next few years, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Danny, what were your initial thoughts on last night's draft, in terms of the quality, in terms of what teams did? Was there anything that
from an offensive point of view? I didn't see those wide receivers going as the first two going as early as what they did. So they're going at 4 and Tyson going at 8. I'd heard rumours about teams being in for Tyson, but I never thought at any point he was going to go at 4. And even though there'd been loads of talk about Love going at 3, when you see it and then you see how many running backs they've actually got, who they're actually paying as well, it just seems bonkers when they need so many positions and they go in just for someone who will look good for the team, but as overall they'll still be struggling probably with having him in the team. That they were a couple of the things that jumped out at me, and then the other one was because I listened to quite a lot of Mags' stuff as well, and a few other Dynasty ones was around the lack of running backs, and to see Price sneak into the first round. That one caught my eye a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I think I look at the draft, and I think we were talking about this off air, that this was the draft of maybe quantity, not quality, to a degree, and in some cases neither. There wasn't great quantity or great quality. Quarterback, running back, for example. And I think this is the first draft I've kind of seen in a while where teams have really gone heavy need based versus best player available. I didn't see a lot of best player available last night. A few picks, you'd say definitely best player available, but it mixed in with the need. I think back to, the Giants pick at 5 would definitely best player available and position of need. Just kind of made sense. The Bucks at 15, very similar. The Eagles trading up at 20. Those kind of picks kind of made sense. But I feel like yesterday, for the first time in a while, and I guess because it was the lack of embarrassment of riches, that normally you just have these standout, amazing talents. I think if we were to look at the last 5 drafts in the NFL, I don't think there's 20 first-round players in this draft. I really don't think there's 20 first-round players.
A lot of people saying there might be 15. 15-ish.
I think you're in that range. I think you're somewhere more than 15, less than 20. Somewhere in there, I think, is where you would draw the line of what you call a genuine blue chip change-making player. And
they went in a different order than people were expecting as well. Sonny Styles, I was sure that the Giants were taking him at 5, but because they didn't expect Reese to go that far down. And there's a few teams they ended up with different players because they didn't expect to see them there at that point.
Yeah, and I think it will set the trend, really. Picks 2, 3, 4 kind of set the trend here for what was going to happen on the night, because Dave Bay is a good player. There's no doubt about it. He's a good player. Is he a great player? No. I think he's ready to go now. I think if you're a team that's terrible, like the Jets are, and you need someone, he's probably the best defensive lineman on that team now, or one of them.
And he needs to show and improve. He might not have a great season, but he needs to show that they're improving to keep his job as well, doesn't he?
Right, and I think he walks in. Whether you look at perhaps the risk of going in another direction is amazing upside, great talent, but you don't have that luxury of time.
Yeah, Reese, he's only 20. He's only 20, isn't he? So
exactly.
He's still yeah.
So I look at that and I think it's really interesting to look at that position and think, okay, I see why they did it. I don't think it's the right call, but whatever. And then obviously Arizona do Arizona things, right? They just are a law unto themselves. like taking Rosen and then taking Murray the following year. Like they just do stuff. Like I always look at Arizona top 5 of a board and think all bets are off. They could do anything. And it's when they took Marvin Harrison Jr. They took Marvin Harrison Jr. when the team was bereft of talent. They couldn't do anything. And they've always done this. They've always taken it. It's like when they took who was the defensive player? Not Murphy. Isaiah, his name just totally escaped me. But like the hybrid defensive player who wasn't a lineman, but he wasn't a defensive player. His name has just totally escaped me. It took him like 7 overall. I'm going to have to look this up because it's just absolutely just done me.
What are they going to do? Like, they've got Love, they've got Algier, they've got Connor, they've got Benson.
Isaiah Simmons. Sorry, that was doing my nut in. I had to work that way. Yeah.
Right.
When they took Isaiah Simmons, they again took a player with no plan. Like they had an archetypal player that could play anywhere, but they didn't have really a position to play him in. So they just do stuff. Love's an interesting one. We'll get into him about what they do and what his thoughts are. But again, that kind of set the trend. And then Tate at 4, I don't think many people expected that. And I think that's a pick that sets the tone for what happened next.
I was jumping out of my seat when that 4th pick went in. I was delighted because we were coming next, and I was delighted. I was like, you can choose whoever you wanted. Like all the players they wanted were still there.
Yeah. It is amazing when you see that. And I had the luxury of when it was basically for me was when the Rams picked Ty Simpson. I was like, this is perfect for the Bucs, because you knew that Ione was going to, like, that's the most Baltimore Ravens pick ever. You could have written that in pen months ago. That was going to happen when Linden went and he went to the Raiders. Like, you kind of just knew that was the pick. Like, it was done. It was done months ago. Like. So it's interesting, but we'll get into that. What were for you, and the obvious one's Ty Simpson, but what would you say, Mags, were the big sort of 2 or 3 shocks from last night?
I wasn't actually particularly surprised by Ty Simpson, just doing, like, having so many guests on the show. That was the topic that was brought up quite a lot about, if Ty Simpson does get first-round draft capital, would that push him up into your first round if you're rookie mocks? And, consistently I said, if anyone's going to take him, it will be the Rams there. That seems to be a really good landing spot for him. And like Ty Simpson, for me, if you flip the way that his season started and ended, then no one would be complaining about this. I think less people than you would think know about the circumstances Ty Simpson had going into the back end of last season. So for the first 7 games of college football, he was the best quarterback in college football, and there wasn't really much debate about that, if you ask me. Then he had quite a serious back injury, and he ended up having an issue with the medication he was on. And the medication he was on essentially made him, like, ill, is the best way I can describe it. So I'm like, okay, so it's not really as much of a, he just kind of lost his magic thing, and he was medically maybe shouldn't have been playing. So I've got good feelings about Ty Simpson. I like that he's going to be sitting. So that wasn't a big shock for me. Danny, I agree with you. I got out of my seat for different reasons when Cornell Tate went at 4. I just did not see that coming. I audibly gasped, like, whenever that happens. Like, not quite to the same extent, I've done for other outrageous picks we've seen in the last few years. But it was up there for me. It was a surprise to see him go there. I think the other one that really stands out for me, I mean, we talked about first-round players. You cannot convince me Jerian Price is a first-round player. He's just not for me at all. No. So that was the other one that stood out for me as being a real surprise, even though it was hyped up and talked about. Didn't see it coming, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Danny, what would you say were your big shocks of last night?
Probably, to be honest, they're probably the same too. Well, I thought Simpson, it wasn't that he went to the Rams. It was that I thought he might go at the back end of the first round. I just didn't see him going like 13th pick. I thought, like, if you wanted him, they could have probably traded back a few positions and still took him further back. Because it was a Pittsburgh, the next one that might have took him, maybe. That's what it just seemed like. It was an overpay. Like they might have been able to get him and pick him at like 19 or 20 or something, and he still would have been there. That would be one. I still just can't get my head. I know everyone said he was going there, but going to still about love. Like when you've got Algier, you've got what's name. James, they've just signed Algier. They've got James Conner, who they've just given a new deal to, and they've got Trey Benson, and I think they've got like other people they can throw in as well. It just seems, unless they're going to play him in a different type of role, it just seems bonkers.
Well, I think he's going to play in the slot.
Yeah.
I think he's going to play the slot, but you know, with Arizona, all bets are off. Before I get to my shocks, we did get a question in here from FP Shooter 8886. We're doing a startup dynasty with 2 drafts. This is in Mags's wheelhouse. I'm going to let him answer first. One with vets, the other with rookies. The vet draft is first, and the last pick in the draft gets the 101 in rookie. Which pick would you prefer? It's a super flex and tight end premium.
Okay, good question. I think you need to think about, right, your 101, your rookie draft, that's going to be Jeremiah Love, 90 times out of 100, I would say, for most people. So am I saying that Jeremiah Love is a first-round dynasty startup player? He's on the edges, but I would still say he's not quite there. I would say he's probably a second-round startup player. So I would say you're wanting to go ahead and get the better veteran picks for now, I would say, because you're getting more value out of that first pick with the veterans than you are with the first pick with the rookies.
And is it 2 QB? Yeah, there we go. Sorry, yeah, super flex, yeah, and tight end premium. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like outside of the first 6 to 8 picks in the rookie draft, the rest of them are irrelevant. Like. I'm not going to say you chuck him in the bin, but they have such a low hit rate. Like there is such a low chance of success past like the 109 this year of those players being anything meaningful in 3 years' time. That I just, as you said, Mags, I've done my best this season to trade out of any picks of value. I've just traded for vets on the cheap, or I've punted into next year because I just don't want part. Like unless you were holding the 101 with Jeremiah Love, I think everybody else has a significant question mark. You would argue the 102 in a super flex. I still don't think I put Mendoza at the 102 in a super flex. Like I know that's like the thing to do. I just think his upside is so capped for the first 3 years that I just don't think I can get behind Mendoza being the 102. 103, sure, you can punch that ticket.
I feel though, Murph, I would say similar to what you said before though about the actual draft itself. This feels like if you've got picks, it's no point going for the biggest value at them. You go for needs this year. So like if you've got like a shortage at wide receiver, you go get a wide receiver. If you need a QB, go and get Mendoza. Like it really depends on your team. If you can't get, most people you won't be able to swap those picks for 2027 now anyway. So like you're gonna have to use them or get a vet
or buy vets. But what I would say is, going back to this rookie draft, vet draft, I wouldn't mind being somewhere in the middle. I think being the 101 to the 1, if it's a 12 team, I think being the 101 to the 104 is almost detrimental because the upside of getting the top 4 player in a dynasty startup draft is great, but you're going to have absolutely no upside of the rookie draft. Whereas I think from like 101 to 108 in a rookie draft, I still think you can get a serviceable player who you can use. So I kind of think like when you're weighing the value, like I'd probably want to be like in that 5 to 7 range and pick the tail end of who falls out of those couple of wide receivers. You can kind of think about, because again, if you kind of working this in logic, right? So you're saying that, mind you, with a tight end premium, you are bringing a few extra players because Sadiq moves up in a tight end premium. He probably gets a good bump that wouldn't normally be there. So if you think like Love, whoever you've got as the top wide receiver would probably be 2. Then you'd probably say it would be Mendoza at 3. Sadiq's probably like 5 or 6 in a tight end premium. He's probably going to be in that range. So then you put, Tyson, Tate, Sadiq. Then you've got Cooper. And then you've got.
So how many? Flipping it the other way. How many QBs go in round 1 in a dynasty draft at the moment for a Superflex? No, not rookies. The vets in round 1.
Oh,
that's what I'd be looking at first as well. Trying to figure that out.
You're going to look at.
At least half,
I don't know.
Right? It'll probably be 6 out of the starting 12 you usually get.
You'd have Chase in the first 6 as well, wouldn't you? Probably. So like that 6th QB is probably coming out about 8 or 9. Is he something like that? Maybe 10.
So who's going 101? Would you say? It's probably Josh Allen, right? Because of the longevity. But I would think Josh Allen for the next 2 years because of the coaching staff changes and the changes system. So he's not going to be what he was. They're going to cap his rushing and his rushing touchdown upside. Like he's going to be going down, in my opinion, 10%. He's still going to be great. Like I'm not saying he's horrible, right? But I think I can see a world where he probably drops 10% of his total fantasy points a season for the next couple of seasons. So then when you factor that in, that he's probably not got the ceiling that he once had, Lamar is not going to do it at this level for another 4 or 5 years. He's going to die. Like he's not going to, he's just not going to do it. Like I'd love him to, but I don't think he will. And then you got Mahomes again. I think there's a sea change coming. You'll know that better than me, Mags. 5 years. I don't think Reed's going to be there in 5 years. So I think there's a sea change coming. That puts at risk of what he does. And then you're looking at Hurts, again, mobile quarterback. We can already see that the wheels are starting to change there. And then I think we're getting into the point now where it's like these quarterbacks, I think you're going to see, we've seen such excellent high quarterback play in the last few years. I think you're going to start to see a bit of a dip. Not loads, but I think the points are going to come down a little bit for the next couple of years, and then that's going to bring everything else into play. So I think when you factor that in with the rookies, I think somewhere in the middle. I think it's probably going to pay off quite nicely.
I'd say based off your logic, that's about 7 or 8, maybe 9. But I think if you were to chance your arm and just take the risk of seeing who's there, you might get someone like a Daniels at the 12th pick, and then you pair that up with what's the name, Love, and as the next pick. That's not a bad start.
I can't see Daniels falling to 12, eh?
Well, when you put in Puka and you put in Chase and you put Bijan and stuff like that, it's quite possible. Like,
yeah,
it'll be super super close to people. You could probably end up getting like a Joe Burrow maybe, but then how much do you trust his injury record? Daniels, you might be able to, or like a Lamar, you might be able to get someone like
Lamar
that.
feels like the one that you could probably get.
Yeah,
that feels like the 112 you could get. And then the other thing is, and this goes into your strategy here, in terms of this is he's saying like I didn't really like where Love went here because I like Tate and Tyson, and listen on because we'll share our opinions on these. I think for me, when I'm thinking about putting this team together, I say again, it depends how you play the game. You know your league better than anyone and everything else. But I'm a play to win every year kind of guy. Like I am a F them picks, less need GM. Like I'll trade the future to stay competitive every year. But it also depends on how you are as a player. Some like that slow burn. Some like that having a really young roster and peaking it at the right time. It depends how long you're. I mean, this is a startup, so it depends who you're playing with, who you know in the league. Like, if I join a random startup, I always work on the consensus that league's not going to live in 3 years. So I just play it to win. Whereas if I'm playing with people who I've known for a very long time, and I know that league is going to stick around for 10 years, I'd play it very differently.
Is this three round reversal as well? Because that could make a big difference as well.
I mean, I've not said, so it'd be interesting, but I don't see that as much in dynasty drafts. I don't know if you do, Mags, but
It's creeping in.
Yeah.
It's creeping in. Like, it's. I would say you're still getting more drafts without it, but every now and again, it's nice to keep things interesting and throw it in. But yeah, it's more of a redraft thing that you'd see the third round reversal usually.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one to look at. But I think I'll go to my shocks on going back to the draft a little bit. I wasn't that shocked about Jeremiah Love. I wasn't that shocked about most things, really. I think the thing that shocked me, the biggest shock of all for me, was Lemon to the Eagles. I felt like when Tate and Tyson went, the fact that there was 12 picks before Lemon came off the board felt wild. Like, because I think for me, we talked about this last week, I had him marginally above the other two. But I said you could split hairs. Like, you could split hairs. I didn't really care enough to sit here on a podcast and debate with anybody that Tate was better than Lemon or Lemon was better than Tyson. Like, I think horses for courses, it was all going to be where they land, was going to be where I really sort of lay the chips after they were picked. But Lemon going 12 picks later just felt wild. Like, and then for the Cowboys to see their rivals, divisional rivals, hated rivals, biggest position of need with the best player available on the board, do a pretty petty, like pretty cheap trade to allow them to come up. Like, if I'm the Cowboys and I see Lemon on the board and I see the Eagles phoning, I'm phoning Miami. I'm phoning New Jersey. I'm phoning the Jets. I'm phoning the Bills. I'm phoning anyone, and I'm holding the Eagles. Like, for me, there is no world that trade should happen. Like, that's just, it's honestly insane how stupid that is, because you've given your divisional rivals who have kicked your backsides for the last half a dozen years the opportunity to draft the best player available in their biggest position of need, knowing that they're trading AJ Brown. Like, that just seems dumb. Like, in no walk of life do I think that would happen in any other sport. I don't know if I could be wrong, but I can't see that. Like, football, I couldn't see in the round ball, I couldn't see two hated Premier League rivals coming to a deal like that to make that happen. Like, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't happen in baseball. I don't know. Maybe it does, but it felt stupid. I don't know what you think. I just thought that was the dumbest trade I've seen in some time.
It's same old Eagles as well, isn't it? They always seem to get, like, these players just seem to fall to the Eagles every year. Everyone's like, they've done it again. It's like every single year. It's like, oh, and Cooper DeJean just falls to the Eagles. You know, like, how? Like, how has this happened? Like, yeah, Mekhi Lemon just falls.
My team stuck with them in the division with them as well. I played them twice a year.
Yeah.
I mean, they traded 2 4th-round picks. They traded 114 and 137 for this pick. And they got a 7th back in next year.
What do you think of the reports that he did fall because essentially people thought he was a bit of a lunatic? Like, you know,
I can believe that to a degree. I mean, look, if you look at the teams let's look at the teams between them, right? That passed. Okay, so I think, you know, Browns were always going tackle, right? There was no way that the Giants were taking them at 10. Cowboys were never taking him. So Miami at 12. What's their biggest need? Mekhi Lemon. You could argue they should have taken Lemon, but I can understand them going tackle because their offensive line is one of the worst in football, and they've taken one of the only good tackles left. So I can kind of get that logic. The Rams, you could make a case for him, but I don't think scheme fit that works. So I can see why they faded. He was never going to the Ravens. He was never going to the Bucks. Jets at 16 made sense, and they took Sadiq. So that's the first point in this draft now where you're saying that's a strong possibility whether he could have gone. You could say Miami, but I kind of understand why they did it, so I don't think it's that bad. So you look at the Jets there and you think, okay, why didn't they take him? There's a question mark. But then it's the Jets. Do I trust their assessment on character and players? Probably not. Right? Lions don't need him. The Vikings don't need him. Their draft pick was bizarre, by the way. Yeah, that was the other shocker. I mean, not really for fantasy football, but what a stinker that pick was. And then Carolina. So Carolina's the other one, but again, I wouldn't say that was their biggest position of need. So the slide kind of makes sense. There's not a lot of teams in there that needed to, but there were teams that definitely behind who could have paid the price and come up. And I think 2/4 isn't that much for a top 10 player, who I think has fallen more for, maybe one or two teams past. But I think it was more just where the board fell.
I'm surprised he didn't go to New Orleans. Where did Tyson go? 8? Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, was it New Orleans' issue with Chris Olave is he can't stay healthy? Oh, what do we do to replace him? Oh, the wide receiver that can't stay healthy. Cool.
Those two become one receiver.
Yeah. Like if you tape two of them together, you can get one. Whereas Lemon is a guy that's notoriously sturdy.
Yeah. You can stitch 16 games out of the two of them combined. Yeah, I mean, New Orleans are crazy, but yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was the stupidest trade I've seen, and that really shook me a little bit last night watching that. The other stuff, it's like I don't really care about the Ty Simpson stuff to really get irate about it. Like it's like I get it makes sense. Like, and then later on, obviously we got all those late picks. I think the Concepcion pick is terrible. I don't think he's a first round player. I can't put a player that's dropped the ball 19 times in college in the first round, and then he's going to have Shadur Sanders throwing him the football. Like, yeah, I don't see that one working out particularly well. So yeah, we'll get there. But let's talk about the takeaways, fantasy takeaways from last night. I'm really keen to talk about the big three. So the big three coming in: Tate, Tyson, and Lemon. Where are you both at with your rankings of them? They were in a tier together. Would you keep them in a tier together, or would you separate them? And then would you add anyone else up into a tier with those three? Or however you're splitting those three?
For me personally, pre-draft, they were not actually in a tier together. I am a Kyle Lemon in a tier on his own. I thought he was, for me, watching it significantly better than both Tyson and Cornell Tate. Now, even before we went live, Murph, I was kind of like a little bit disappointed with the landing spot. But as I'm, processing it even in real time, like, right, you know what? I'm going to go back to what I've seen and what I liked. There's a reason I had Mekhi Lemon in a tier on his own, and I really like it. The Eagles did trade up to get him, which I also think is a big deal. Why would you trade up to get a player like that if you're not planning, to go out and use him and get him heavily involved in your offense? So I think Mekhi Lemon, I'm going to stay sturdy, and I'm going to still keep him at 1, even though I don't love the landing spot. In fact, if I was to maybe handpick a team I don't want him to go to, it might have been the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's there now. I'm going to trust the talent. I'm going to keep him at 1.
Max, before you go to number 2, a question for you.
Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
Would you have Lemon? Well, obviously AJ Brown's going, but would you have Lemon as the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 for the Eagles?
I think at the start of the year, what you'll probably see is a lot of usage with Devonta Smith. Actually, this could be a big year for Dallas Goedert, actually. I think he's maybe more of a safety blanket for Jalen Hurts, especially at the start of the year. So I can see Murph loving that one. So I think Goddard
all day long.
Yeah.
I'm there.
As we go through the season, I think Lemon will get more involved. I don't think he's going to be like a Jamar Chase or someone that comes in and immediately takes over. I think it'll be a slow burn. Lemon will get involved, and I think if they're smart, they will engineer opportunities for Lemon to get in enough space to get some yards after the catch, because that's where he really, really thrives. So that's what I'd be looking for. Little scheming plays to get him involved, and then I think he will earn himself that wide receiver 1 role ahead of Devonta Smith, who, I still really like Devonta Smith, but I think Lemon should force himself as the number one.
And I'm gonna pour a bit of water into and go with Mags and say that I'm there. There's a lot of flux here. So Brown has gone. They fired their offensive coordinator. You've got a first-time offensive coordinator in Sean Mannion, who, for those of you who don't know who Sean Mannion is, he's a former NFL quarterback who I believe only retired through 2, maybe 3 years ago. So we're talking about a guy in his first offensive coordinator job. He did have a coaching job with the Packers for 2 seasons, I think. But not as an offensive coordinator. So you got a first-time coordinator at the age of 33 calling plays. You have, obviously, A.J. Brown going out the door. You have a team that obviously disappointed last year. That they're in not a rebuild, but a kind of a retool or a reload or whatever you want to call it. So I think that offense is going to have a bit of a spread in terms of, I think it's going to be a slow burn, that offense. You got a first-time play caller, not used to calling plays. We're trying to understand his scheme and what he's going to try and develop coming from that Matt LaFleur coaching tree. You know, I think I go with Mags. I think it's a slow burn. I think Dallas Goedert first half of the season is going to be a massive impact player. I think he tails off. But I think first half of the season, Dallas Goedert wouldn't shock me if he was the target leader in that team in the first half of the season. And then I think long term, or at least medium to long term, I think Lemon takes over. I think he's got the talent, the profile. I still look at Devonta Smith as a over the top burner. I think that's where he does best. He's not a target hog for me. I think when you trying to force feed him targets, the offense stifles. And I think where they really struggled was they were trying to shoehorn Brown and Devonta Smith into being a 1A, 1B. And that doesn't work. We saw that it stagnated. You need an alpha, and then you need Devonta Smith is an excellent foil B over the top sort of X receiver, right? And play to his strengths. Lemon can come and do the Z role, and then you kind of have Goddard as your blanket, and then you need to get probably a semi slot to come in and just do some cleanup stuff if you're going to wide receivers, or you could go 2 tight end sets. I think they need to do something like that, and I think we'll see what happens with them. But that's kind of where I would probably see it. But I think that Eagles offense is going to be a mess for the first 6 to 10 games while they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And
then I never finished my other. I would have
11-1.
11-1, and then I'd still probably go Tyson 2, Tate 3. I don't know how well Tate's going to do as a wide receiver 1. If you look back historically how he's done in college, his big games have come against, teams you don't really know that well, and that's a little bit of a red flag for me because Carnell Tate was not the wide receiver 1 on that team. He was not seeing double coverage. He wasn't what teams were really worried about. So there's a little part of me is worried to see a little bit of a flat track bully ever so slightly. Still think he's a good player. I didn't see him as the 4th best player in the draft, though. So I'll still stick with Jordan Tyson, who does have upside if he's still healthy, and I'll put Carnell Tate at 3.
Love it. Danny?
It's weird because that's the opposite that they went in the draft, but I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, before the draft, I was thinking it was Tyson as 1. But to be honest, listening to what you guys are saying and then listening to other people as well, yeah, the Tate one's put me off completely. I just don't know. I would not be risking any capital on that at the moment. I wouldn't see too much between them, to be honest. Tyson, I think Tyson has more upside, but Lemon's had a better situation and better team. So I don't know. I'd say it's not much between them, to be honest.
I'm going to go really out here, boys.
Yeah, you're going to pick what's name, aren't you? Who else have we got?
I got Lemon. I got Lemon in a stratosphere of his own.
Yeah, you're going to go. Are you going to go Cooper by any chance?
Yeah. I look at this and I think, do you know what? I see a world where Cooper's going to be the 2. Not this year, but in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, when we sit and revisit this and we look at how all of this kind of shakes and pans out, I see a world where Garrett Wilson gets traded, Cooper ascends into the wide receiver 1 role, they draft a high caliber quarterback. I need a lot of things for the Jets to go right, which has not happened in 20 years.
Get a new coach.
So they need a new coach. Yeah, all sorts of things to happen here. But if this happens, I see a world where Cooper's the 2, because they've tooled that offensive line. Yes, the quarterback situation this year is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. You're going to have Sadiq out there who's going to garner X amount of attention. I think they trade Garrett Wilson. I just don't see a world where he's on that team in 2 years. And then I think it's all hell Cooper. I really see that. I think he's such a good player, that he's such an underrated player. That I think for me, Cooper, there is a world. I think I'm reaching here, but I'm almost looking at how the draft has fallen. Like I look at Tyson, there is a pathway to Tyson being successful, but that New Orleans team is going to be an absolute dumpster fire for the next 3 years. We're not sure that Shook is the guy. It wouldn't shock me, by the way, if you see Garrett Nussmeier get drafted by the Saints today or tomorrow. Like, that wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Least mobile quarterback room of all time.
Oh, yeah, it would be. Oh, yeah, it's right up there with, like, yeah, shocking. Beyond shocking. Yeah. But that's Kellen Moore over. Like, he doesn't need mobile quarterbacks. Then you've got on top of that their cap issues. They're not signing a free agent for the next 5 years that's got any pedigree in this game. You've got a heavy running game now, which they've invested in. They've got probably the best running back 1-2 combo that's ever been assembled in NFL history. And they're paying through the nose for it. And then you've got 2 wide receivers that can't stay fit. Like, I just don't see a world where Tyson's going to have to stay fit. They're going to have to land a quarterback and that quarterback be successful, because I don't think it's Tyler Shook. And then they're going to need to somehow continue to rebuild this team on a shoestring in the draft, because they haven't got free agency money for at least the next 3 to 4 years. And I just don't see that team really progressing. And then if Tyson gets injured, then that's it. And then Tate's really interesting, because he's either going to prove my theory right or wrong, where I'm saying that volume is no longer the biggest dependent factor on success in fantasy football, that its efficiency is more important than volume. There is a world where Tate is going to get 30% target share this year, because there's absolutely no one else to throw the ball to. And what does he turn that 30% into? Because he's not a yak monster. He's not a touchdown efficient guy. So can he put together a wide receiver 1 season on a 30% target share on volume alone? And then also we got the whole Cam Ward, who I don't think is great. Piece.
That was going to be my question to both of you, was around, if you turn this the other way around, and instead of talking about the wide receivers, the person throwing the ball to them, from a rankings point of view, does that, who they've just been given, does that change any of their rankings at all?
Difficult, right? With Cam Ward, like we don't even know how good he is, because he's not being given any time to show it. Like, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is if you don't have an offensive line that can hold up to anything.
But if you were drafting today, though, and you were drafting yesterday, is there any difference?
No. The other thing with the Titans is they just signed all the Giants rejects, right? So here's the other thing: is you've got Tate, and then you've got him on a team with Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, that's going to be weird, because you've got basically 2 of a very similar type of player. So, like, how does that work? And who is the foil for the other? Like, you've paid Wan'Dale Robinson a fair amount of change, by the way.
A lot.
Yeah. So, you know, I sit there and say, like, Tate, I think Tate, there's a world where Tate gets 30% volume. There's also a world where Tate gets 15% volume. Like, and it all goes to Wan'Dale. Like, I think it's really fascinating, like, what happens there. Like, I don't actually see the wood in between the trees here with what the Titans are trying to do, because it's just a bit weird. Like, I don't know. I don't quite see it. And like, do we trust the ball is gonna like nail it? I don't know. Like, Wanda Robinson got $70 million. Like, I don't know. I think it's just. I think it's going to be strange how all of that manifests down, and how they scheme, because they still haven't got a deep ball threat. So that's the other problem you've got is it's really easy to defend Tate and Wanda Robinson. You just shift everyone up, and just really sort of squeeze the play. So, I think that's going to be fascinating. And that's why I think we talked about this last week, landing spot, right? I couldn't think of many worse spots for Tate than where he landed. And Tyson, I don't think is a great landing spot. I think there's worse, but I don't think there's many worse. I think both those situations are heavily in flux. And I just think the thing with Lemon, he's in I know he's got a rookie OC, but Sirianni's won a Super Bowl. They've been to multiple Super Bowls. Like, that's a pretty stable franchise that he's going to retool a little bit, and they're going to kind of figure stuff out on the fly in the first year. And the second year might be a bit of a wash, but there's a pathway to greatness there. So I look at Cooper and think he could just inherit an amazing situation a couple of these time. I also wouldn't rule out Boston if he lands in a really good spot tonight. Like, if he goes to the Rams, there's a pathway to him being great in 2 years. Like, I think
49ers for me. I think
49ers is another one. Chris Bell, if he ends up on the Chiefs, like, what happens there?
Don't tease me, Murph. Don't tease me.
That's what I mean.
Like that.
There's a pathway to a guy who hasn't gone yet, be the number 2, number 3 in this draft. Like, it could happen. So I look at this re-ranking now and think, if you had the 104 or the 103 yesterday, that was a lot more valuable than it is today.
I literally made a trade for that like 2 days ago, and now I'm like, crap. Like, I was so excited to get that 104 because we moved up from the 19 or maybe even before 111, maybe even it was quite late. It moved up to 14, was delighted, and now I'm like, how can I turn that into a 27 first?
Don't be telling everyone anyway, Murph, because I want to try and sell some of mine now before the draft.
Oh, what you've got to hope is that people value Lemon low because of where he went.
Yeah.
That's what you're hoping is everyone's all in on Tate and Tyson because they went in the top 10. That's what you got to hope for. You've got to hope for the Jameson Williams effect.
2 questions for you around the Jets. So, like, one of them, obviously, they got Geno, and he's going way at the back end of the QBs, but surely he gets a bit of a bump when he's got 2 more offensive weapons. And then the second question to Mags would be about what happens to Mason Taylor now they've got Sadiq as well.
Well, he's got to stay where he is, which is in the bin.
Because I heard there's a lot of people, like, I haven't got him, I've got no shares of him, but I know a lot of people who do. Yeah, because there was a lot of people who thought he could do something. Like, he's dust, is he?
I would say he is. Like, he was someone who, when he came out of, was he LSU? I can't quite remember where he came out of, but I was kind of like, he's fine. He's a good college tight end. It was like him and Terrence Ferguson came out at the same time, and both of them were like, they're both okay. They're both fine, but I don't see them really being high producers in the NFL unless they land in an absolutely perfect situation. Whereas Sadiq's got a bit more to him, in terms of like a guy where you can see the potential upside, you can see the athleticism, and you can see, the fantasy points there. Mason Taylor would have been very much like a Dalton Schultz, where you're like, he's not that good, but he is getting the targets, and that's why he's getting the points.
Okay.
Well, I'll jump in on Taylor. There's 2 things that go in his favor. One, he's not quite 22 yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, so he's 22 in a couple of weeks. So, he's still very young. And I do think that the Jets do play quite a bit of 2 tight end set. So I think he'll get the field, but I don't think he's fantasy relevant. But yeah, I think it's a shame. But I see a pathway to him going out the door next year. So you can't get anything for him. His fantasy value has just died.
Yeah.
But I would hold him and hope he gets a revival somewhere in a trade in a year's time or less.
bit like Michael Meyer when he went to the Raiders, and then the next year they got Bowers, and he was pretty similar.
Yes.
Yeah, but the investment wasn't as high on Meyer. But yeah.
What about Gino? This is more for redraft and Dynasty, because obviously he's only probably there for 12 months, but in a redraft, where would you see him fit? Would surely get a bump when he's got a couple more offensive weapons like that?
Is that to me?
He's like,
anyone, to either of you?
He's like Gino. If you're going to take Gino, that's a very much a strategic choice that you're going to take quarterback late, and you're kind of just like, yeah, I'm going to trust that Gino is going to be my. I mean, it's a big risk if you're taking a guy like Gino as your super flex quarterback, but you're going to hope that you can load up in other areas, and Gino has a solid season. But he's got to go late and redraft still, right?
Yeah.
What's his upside? 20? That's the ceiling for me. Like, he finishes QB 20 with everything.
That'd be a great year for him.
I mean, that's what I mean. Is that like that offense was so bad, and I know they got weapons, but they're still trying to figure this stuff out. Like, I just think that yes, they'll improve. Yes, he'll be okay. He'll have a better year than last year. But
he'd be the type of one where when I'm drafting, I'd be looking at him as my QB3 to fill in. And if someone does get injured, I've got someone who can tick along to come in and cover. It's not someone I'd look to start straight away, but like he might, as you say, it could be a QB20. He's probably going to go at about QB 28 or something like that, the way the drafts normally go.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking more like for value more than anything.
I would have him as QB4. So I would have him in that range of, wow, people haven't jumped on the last few live grenades. I'm going to just jump on and really screw someone over by taking him and then holding him and trying to trade him, because I'm going to hoard the quarterbacks and hope that people run out of quarterbacks with the injuries and need to trade for Gino, and I can trade Gino for a usable piece. That's kind of how I see his value, because I think he will hold value for sure. But yeah, I don't see any great upside. There's a good question here from Harry. My Devy roster has Love, Tate, Lennon, and Concepcion. I'll be able to get Sadiq with the rookie 102. The burn down is starting to take effect. I mean, I'm surprised that Sadiq wasn't in the Devy draft. I'm sure someone would have taken him in Devy.
Yeah.
That's
surprising to me. So that's a pretty good. I assume Mendoza is the 101 because he wasn't all that at Cal. I don't think people.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
I mean, that's great to have those guys coming up like to your roster in terms of like Devy. Like you look at some Devy teams, you're like, oh my god, like this guy's not even gonna go in like the third round. People you're so excited about, and it's like how many people have got Zachariah Branch coming off their Devy teams and just so disappointed right now.
Nicholas Singleton.
Oh man, don't even. Yeah,
I had him in so much Devy.
Yeah, and he was the crown jewel. Like you were thrilled to have Nick Singleton, Zachariah Branch, like yeah, and it's just so amazing how quickly things can
really sort of go in the bin. Here's a question for you, a hypothetical based on Harry's team here.
Yeah.
Would you sell Tate high?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you got a good offer for Tate now, and I don't know what that good offer would look like, but would you I'd be tempted to, knowing that I've got Lemon. I'm not all in on Concepcion, but I don't think you're going to get a lot of takers, and you could take Sadiq. He says he also has Singleton club.
That's
I like Drew Aller. I think Drew Aller could land somewhere really special in the next day and a half, and that could be really fascinating to see where he is. I'm a big fan of Drew. I think there's a lot to Drew Aller. If he lands in the right spot, I actually wanted him to go to the Rams, by the way, but that obviously is not going to happen.
And so, you know what? There's a little bit of hope for Nick Singleton there. Whenever I was doing my film study, I liked him a lot more than I thought I would. So I'm a bit more positive of Nick Singleton than I was at the start of the season. So
I mean, there's a player in there for sure.
I'm wondering, with it being Devy, could you turn Carnell Tate? Could you be happy to reload and go again? And Devy picks aren't quite as valuable as your dynasty picks. Can you somehow forge a way to turn Cornell Tate into Malachi Toney somehow? Malachi Toney, the freshman on Miami. I don't know if there'd be a way you could do it, but if there is, I'd be trying to make that move happen.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah, I think he's the player I would be. Because if you got Lemon and Love, you got Conception, you got Sadiq, probably you already have an existing roster.
Mm.
I think it'd be an interesting one to chew over. While we're on Sadiq, last 2 points, and then we'll quickly do tonight and tomorrow. Sadiq's stock. Up, down, about the same where he was. Where are you mocking him at the moment?
I don't think anyone's stock's ever gone up after going to the Jets. I'm sorry to say it. I don't think you could put him. I just did a mock draft today just before I came on a show with the great Scott Connor, who is well known for being one of the smartest minds in the game, and he's saying unless it's tight end premium, taking no tight ends in the first round, and I think Sadiq might sneak in at 112, but I don't love him on the Jets, so I think stock down overall for Sadiq.
I mean, my view on that. I came on your show when Brock Bowers was the high rate thing, and I didn't take him in my mock draft in the first.
Yes, 12. That's right. Yes,
people lost their absolute minds in the comments. Who is this guy? Why is he not taking Bowers? Because I put people Bucky Irving in there. I had Bucky Irving at the 110. And I was like, hey, Bucky Irving at the 110 looks like a freaking steal now, by the way.
It was a great shot, yeah.
But as I said to you on the show at the time, I didn't want to do the same freaking mock draft that everyone else does. And I don't take tight ends. I don't think I've ever taken a rookie tight end in the first round unless it's the 112 and I'm just stuck. And the rest of the pomp is just crap because so few of those picks. I know we've had a few recency, and therefore the recency bias is trending this upwards. But traditionally, rookie tight ends don't work. They don't do. Evan Ingram was the greatest rookie tight end of all time until Brock Bowers and a couple of these newer guys. So, I'm just not there for it really. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I'll be taking Sadiq, and I caveat that if Sadiq's there at the 112, I'd probably punch it, and the only reason I punch it is I don't see anyone in the second layer that interests me. I think he's the guy who could swing and do something, but yeah, otherwise I probably wouldn't. So yeah, I'm fine with that. And then Jadarian Price, because Danny, you were a bit excited about Price, and Mags, you're not. What makes
not excited, but just more as in because of the fact he ends up going there and where he's going to, it just surprised me, and I'm just thinking, why would you pick him there unless you're going to use him?
Well, I think they pick him there because it's the Seahawks. They've got form. Rashard Berry, Charbonnet. This is a classic Seahawks pick. We'll just take a running back because we don't know what we're going to do with the 32nd pick. And to be fair to Price, he's weirdly in a tier of his own because you've got Love, huge golf, Price, huge golf, and you've got Johnson, Coleman, Allen, Washington, who I don't rate any of them. They're all plodders. They're all people that are going to have a very nice living, earning, small shares of backfields, catching and north-south first down work, but not going to do anything frightening interesting. So, he just holds intrigue because this might be the worst running back class of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
In any other year, he's a third-round player. Easily. But it's the fact that if you got the perfect storm of the Seahawks at 32 who just do this sort of stuff, and they've got form, and the rest of the class is just absolutely terrible. But I don't think I could take Price in the first round either. I just... It's an absolute punt. And maybe at the 112, it's a gamble, right? So I don't mind gambling at the 112. You've got the winning team in theory, unless you've traded into that pick. You're the reigning champion. You can spin it up and just see what you get out of it. It could be something, could be nothing. But, I'm not excited about him. I think he was unfortunately, he had Jeremiah Love. He's had, the reason he was behind Jeremiah Love to begin with is he tore his Achilles. So know that there's a limited shelf on him already with a torn Achilles. You already know that he's not playing past 30 because of that injury. So we're already on the back nine of his career before he's even been drafted. I know he's not got a lot of tread on his tires, but I think there's just he is at best an RB2. Like that's the best outcome I think you're going to get for him. I think that's Charbonnet's offense when he's fit. I think he proved that in the Super Bowl. Wow.
He has weirdly become Zach Charbonnet, right?
Yeah.
Like he has become Zach Charbonnet because of Zach Charbonnet.
He's become Zach Charbonnet because of Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he couldn't ask for a better mentor for the Zach Charbonnet role than Zach Charbonnet. So
literally the guy that invented it, yeah.
The guy that invented the role.
So if you're what's name Murf, based off what you said before, if you're not taking a tight end and you're not taking Price, are you saying from 9 to 12 you're just going to punt on wide receivers?
All day long.
Yeah.
Because there's enough interesting wide receivers, and that's a nice segue into this part, where there's a lot of very good wide receivers still out there. Boston, Bernard, Bell, Williams, Brazel, Skylar Bell, Zachariah Branch. I mean, he's not terrible. Bryce Lance.
Surratt.
Jacoby Lane. Landing spot's going to be important. Opportunity's going to be important. But I look at those players and I think there's 2 or 3 of those players who could be serviceable wide receivers in fantasy football for the next 5 years.
Where are the best landing spots?
Well, I think whoever lands on the Rams, the Chiefs.
Yeah. What about Washington?
Potentially.
I think the Raiders will take one of those guys as well.
The Giants need one, but I don't know whether they'll go in round 2 or whether they'll wait for later because you've got that many other issues to fix.
Well, you're gonna have another one if your lead wide receiver gobbing off about your first round pick. That's not what you needed.
I'd say out of the running backs there, that I will give a shout out to. I actually think Jonah Coleman has some skills to carve himself out a little bit of a role if he ends up, not behind a super clear running back one. If he ends up going to like Indianapolis, then I'm like, okay, well,
dead. Yeah,
taking Jonah Coleman, but I had him on tape better than Jadarian Price by not a huge margin, but enough margin for me to say I would take him. So I like Coleman.
I like any player that comes out of Washington. They're high character players. I've said it for years on this pod. I'll take any Washington player because that school is like the epitome of excellence, and they draft people for they recruit people first, then football talent. So you never hear anything bad about guys who go to Washington. For sure. I actually think the Raiders is a decent spot, by the way, going back to those wide receiver issues. I think that could be a really interesting landing spot, given that there's absolutely no real talent there. I think that could be fascinating.
Surratt's right there, isn't he, Murph? Like Surratt to the Raiders, team him up with Mendoza. It's so easy. It's too obvious, right? It's
almost too obvious. It's almost like they scripted it. I think that would be an interesting one. But you look at the Chiefs, I think that would be a great spot. Obviously, whoever lands in Miami, given what they've got on that roster, you're looking at them being the immediate alpha. Admittedly, you've got a pretty dodgy situation there, but you've got time. But I mean, who's? I don't even know who the wide receiver one is at the Miami Dolphins. Does anyone know? I genuinely
Devon Achan, I think he just got to play at the slot as well. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up number 1 in targets next year.
It's this is their starting 3: Malik Washington, Jalen Tolbert, and Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, there's no one.
Wow.
That's
Devin Edge, he'll lead targets next year.
Devon Achaz's doing it all. Well, that's why they got the lineman. Clear house.
There's a few players. There's still a few players on that free list though as well, likes of Jennings and Diggs and people like that. Like some of them have got to find a place as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go. But yeah, you got to look at Miami as a landing spot. Whoever goes there is the immediate one. The opportunity to carve something with Malik Willis, who's going to have something to prove. That could be really fascinating.
I don't hate Zach Branch to Miami, actually. I think he fits the style of play that they might like. A lot of it built around speed. They've moved on a little bit from that, but I think he could be a nice fit there, Zach Branch to Miami.
Yeah, I don't hate that either.
What about the Bills? Who's going the Bills?
I think the Bills had an absolutely horrible day at the office yesterday.
Yeah,
I don't understand a team with as many needs as they had, who traded down 3 times out of the first round.
Yeah,
like that's baffling to me. Like, need edge, you need an O lineman. Well, you're not getting them now; they're gone. See you later. So you could get a corner now in round 2 with all your second round picks. Congratulations. There's a whole boatload. You could have taken one anyway. So yeah, wide receiver. Best wide receiver for them.
One name really screaming out at me for the Bills is they need someone who's just reliable and consistent, and no one better than Jimmy Bernard on that list for me.
Yeah. That probably makes a lot of sense. Antonio Williams is quite clean too.
I'm a big Antonio Williams fan, but I mean, maybe the Bills will go for it again. I feel like the Bills have taken so many dart throws that they might just want someone they can trust this year, but they might just Bills go to Bills and throw another big dart at Antonio Williams. Or we mentioned Zach Branch, Chris Brazzell, late. These guys, maybe they're going to keep swinging the axe until they get one of these guys to hit.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting tonight because I think all these players. I think all these wide receivers are going to come off the board. So Boston, Bernard, Bell, Williams, Brazzell, Bell, Branch, Lance, Lane, and Surratt are going to come off the board tonight. I'm pretty confident. Maybe Lane doesn't. I don't know. But I think almost certainly all those players will come off the board. So I think you're going to get day 2 is going to be dominated in fantasy by the wide receivers. Whereas tight ends, you're not going to get that many. You're going to get Claire, Stowers, maybe Jolly. I'm not sure he goes, but possibly. Running backs, Coleman, as you say, will probably be the next one off the board. Maybe Johnson in Nebraska. They could be the only 2 running backs that go tonight. Maybe Washington. I'd be surprised if Washington goes, but not shocked. So, and there's a world where they're talking about Carson Beck going tonight, which I just think would be nuts.
I think he will.
Do you think he will? I think there's 1 quarterback goes tonight.
Yeah.
I think 1. And I think they'll probably go with Nussmeier, but be interesting.
Nussmeier's. I just think Nussmeier's just not built for NFL. I'm not saying Carson Beck is built for NFL football either, but I think he might get the higher draft capital. Like if Carson Beck goes to Arizona Cardinals, don't hate it for him. He did show last year that he was susceptible when he was pressured, and I can only assume at the Cardinals that's going to come up.
Yeah. No, fair. I think for me, the Cardinals are going to be the team that will take 1. I don't think it'd be Klubnik. I don't think it'd be Cole Payton. See, I just think Carson Beck for them doesn't make any sense. I just don't. I don't think it makes.
Can we echo your previous point about it's the Cardinals?
Well, that's true. It is the Cardinals, but even then, I just think. Yeah. I just think if they took Carson Beck, Oh man, I might just give up on the Cardinals as like an offense. Like I just think it could be the worst team in history. Like, be interesting. I don't know. I agree with you on Nussmeier. I think there's something more to him. I think at least Nussmeier would make it interesting watching. So I look at like Garrett Nussmeier and I think, yes, he's small. Yes, he's undersized. Yes, he's going to get absolutely obliterated in the NFL and he's going to flame out after like 3 years. But at least I'll watch it. Like, I look at him going there and I think it will be fun. Like, he's going to spread the ball. He's going to go wild. He's going to take shots deep. He's going to just try and make something happen. He's going to play hero ball. Everyone's going to eat. That offense is going to be both incredible and dismal in equal proportion, and both are going to be entertaining. I feel like Carson Beck goes to Arizona and it's going to be dull. It's just going to be really singular play, handoff to Love, short dump pass to Love. Occasionally you might see Marvin Harrison Jr. get a 8-yard slant route that he goes down short of the line of scrimmage and they punt. And I think that's what you're going to see. And it's just going to be dink, dunk, run the ball football that no one wants to see out of like the 1970s. Now, that's not a slate on Carson Beck, but he's just... he is just the most boring corp. Like, and it's not his fault, but he is like... Carson Beck is the epitome of a man who runs away from a problem. Like, oh, it's too hard. I'm just gonna change. I'm just gonna get out of there. Like, he doesn't like it tough. Like, he's not a guy for the difficult days. He's just
you can see that in his play as well, right? Whenever Miami, like whenever they allowed people to get to Beck, he did absolutely wilt. I want to make it very clear. I'm not planting my flag on Carson Beck in any way.
No, I don't think anyone can plant them.
He might be the guy that would go. I'm predicting.
Yeah, I would say that he is the Renault Clio of quarterbacks. It's reliable. It will get you to where you need to get to a small degree, but you'll hate every single minute of it. Apologies to any of you that drive a Renault Clio. That's my take on it. Day 3. Is there anyone that you're really excited about in the later rounds that you just think might just pop up? And I'm conscious of time here, but is there anyone kind of late on that you think could be a lot of fun that we could keep an eye on for those watching on day 3 and get excited about?
Sure. Let me give you a running back that I like. I've been a fan of his through the season. I like Jamari Taylor, running back out of Virginia. I think he's solid. He'll go day 3. I think he's got enough about him that he can convert a running back 2 role, and then someone gets injured and he gets a couple of carries and then you sell him. That's a Jamari Taylor experience right there. You're not looking him on your roster for a long term. You're a contender. You use him for those few weeks. If you're not, you get him on there. Wait till someone goes down and you flip him and you sell him. In terms of wide receiver, man, I'm just excited to see what some of these what's the best way to describe it? Internet darlings, I suppose you can call them, that crop up every year. This year it is without doubt Ted Hurst. I would say he's a guy that's popped up as an internet darling, along with Skylar Bell and to an extent Bryce Lance. I'm kind of excited to see where they end up going and if they can carve out a role in a team, because most of the time these guys end up being at best a gadget guy. So I'm kind of interested to see can any of them break through, because I mean, I hate to say it, but everyone, ever since he's been drafted, everyone's like, who's the next Puka Nacua? And guys, it's probably not going to happen for another 10 years. Like, it just doesn't happen that often.
No, absolutely not. I've got a couple of guys. What about you, Danny? Have you got any?
I was going to ask Mike a question about one of the running backs that I'd done. I've been listening to a few pods and his name's cropped up a couple of times. If I can pronounce it properly, Heinrich. Is it like Heidenreich or something? Yeah, I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but like
Navy, the wide receiver running back combo.
I know, but the mad thing is, like, because I do listen to a bit of Fantasy Points, and Scott constantly is talking about him as in if you've just got a pick in the end of the third or the fourth round and you just want to throw it at someone, he's took 100% of him in every single draft that he's done, because he sees him as like, it's like a 2% chance of like a CMC light, he calls him. And I just wanted to see what you knew about him and what you thought.
And not too much. I know Ali over on the Dynasty Hotseat is a fan of him as well. He's doing very similar. He's just kind of taking him here and there in spots. He said he was basically the entire offense over there but like, I mean, I don't know, Murphy, you probably know better than me. When's the last time a player has come from Navy on the offensive side of the ball and done anything?
Oh.
No one's coming to mind for me in particular.
Not in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like you've got classics. Like Roger Staubach came from Navy, obviously.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I probably saw him playing a couple of years ago and didn't even realise. I went to stay in Notre Dame against Navy game and at the Aviva in Dublin, and there's a good chance he was probably involved.
Yeah, probably. Is he one of those guys that's like, you actually, let me just check it doesn't say his age on here. Is he one of those guys that you realize he was the whole offense and then you click on it and it turns out he's 25 or something like that, like playing against kids? Like, that wouldn't shock me too much either.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like the running back from Indiana. Is it Kalen Black? I think he's 26.
Yeah, he's 20. He's nearly 23, I think.
All right, that's not awful.
I have do you want a list of significant Navy players from the last 20 years?
I think everyone's been waiting for this, Murph.
Max Lane, offensive tackle from 1994 to 2000, so not even in the last 20 years, but Mike Whale, guard tackle from 1998 to 2009. He had a long career with the Packers, Panthers, and Seahawks. Okay. And then Keenan Reynolds, wide receiver, kick returner from 2016 to 2019.
So he's a must draft, is what you're saying then?
Aye.
Out of that key historical nature of Navy, yeah,
we'll go back and listen to this pod in a couple of years when he's absolutely flying, and we'll be like, oh yes, he was mentioned.
Yeah, if we go through, we can say that we definitely mentioned him. So I have
he does have the coolest name, at least in the draft, right?
He does have a great, and he plays two positions, so you gotta give it. I'm there with you on Malachi Fields. I think he's going to be really fascinating. I'm a little bit in on Seth McGowan. I'm intrigued to see what he does. I'm biased, but I like SEC guys. You've played against NFL caliber players most of your career, so I think there's some production that could come out of there. But he's so landing spot dependent. Like, again, he needs to go to an opportunity. If he went to Seattle as well, I'd actually back him to get something over what's there. And there's a couple of landing spots there that could be really interesting. The Steelers could be an interesting one. There's a few there that I think he could be really, really interesting. Le'Veon Moss, again, is another player, I think. But again, he is coming off an ACL, MCL injury 2 years ago, so probably not great there. I'm also there on Bryce Lance, but I do worry about FCS players and how they translate. Dion Burks, I think he's another player out of Oklahoma. I'd be excited to see where he gets to. For me, he's this year's Tank Dell, which I don't know if you ever want to be any year's Tank Dell, but and then the last one, and I'm going to throw a tight end in here, is Sam Roush out of Stanford.
Yeah.
I just love those big, massive tight ends like the Gronkowskis and Martellus Bennett's, and his athletic profile is really interesting. Like, he ran a 4.70 40. So for a guy like he's 6'6", 267, like, that's quick. He's a pretty athletic guy. So I look at him like for me, if you partnered him with like a Harold Fanning as a 2 tight end set, that could be really interesting. Or, I wouldn't rule him out on someone like the Bucks, who could really use a big body receiver. So I've lost Evans, Cade Otton, although they've paid him, is not a big red zone target guy. I think the Bucks could really use a big target guy in the red zone where they've struggled over the last 2 years. Roush could be that guy of a tight end or bust kind of play in fantasy football if he lands in somewhere like Tampa. So
Chiefs as well. Chiefs are crying out for that big receiving threat in the end zone. So that'll be a nice spot for him too.
Definitely. And I want to see Drew Aller. I really like Drew Aller. Like, I really think there's a quarterback in there that's good enough for the NFL. But he can really only land now in like 3 spots. So like if he lands in Dallas, I think would be interesting, because I don't know how much Dak Prescott's got left in terms of that injury profile. If he landed in like Pittsburgh, I think that would be a great spot as well. I don't know where else. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Somewhere that would be interesting that's got like an aging quarterback that he could sit for like 2 years and then play. I think he needs to sit for 2 years, but I think he'd be a really interesting player. But somewhere that he can go for 2 years and sit on an aging quarterback, he could be good fun. So I'd like to see that happen. But anyway, this has been fun. Really interesting night one. I think the rest of the draft is going to shape up to be just as interesting. And I think tonight is where we're going to really see the big moves on in fantasy offenses, and it'd be really fun to re-rank these wide receivers once we know where all these guys are going. But until then, Mags, thanks so much for coming on, mate. Tell us where people can find your content. I have linked it all, and I'll link us out when we put it out properly. But tell everyone where they can find you, where they can interact with you, follow your worst Dynasty team ever, and just engage with you, because you're a top bloke with a lot of knowledge, and people should be not only subscribing, but definitely interacting and pulling some of that knowledge off you to make their teams better.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, the best place to find, interact, all that is Dynasty Hotseat YouTube channel. If you leave a comment in any of the videos, I'll get back to you, especially on that worst team ever video, because any comment you leave, I will attempt to make that move for the Dynasty team. So if you think you know what you're talking about, this is a chance for you to come out there and prove it and see if you can help me rebuild the team. So just type in Dynasty Hotseat into YouTube. You'll see the channel right away. If you're not already subscribed, that'd be very much appreciated. Yeah, that's the best way to reach me.
Definitely hit subscribe. Danny, we got another one. We got another guy from the Emerald Isle joining us next week to help us break down the rest of the NFL. We're sort of really pumping Dublin over the last few weeks.
Well, that was going to be my last question before he went. Is he busy on the 20th of June? If Mags was busy on that date, whether he fancied a trip home.
Oh, is this for the Scott Fish Bowl?
Yeah, it's the Saturday, the 20th of June.
I have submitted an initial bid to my wife about the potential freedom on that date. We'll see if it's accepted or declined. We're still making summer plans. So, but yes, I would.
The person who's on next week is the one who's on next week is actually going as well. So Murf will say who that is in a second. But there's a few people making the trip over as well. What's the name? I can't remember his name now. The guy who does all the merch is on his way over as well, isn't he?
Yes,
John,
I know who you mean.
John Bosch?
No, the merch from England.
Oh, Mags. Sorry, Mugs. Yeah, Patrick.
Mugs.
Yeah, there's a few
Mags,
people
Mugs.
coming.
Yeah, Patrick's coming over. FFCC champion, previous champion, is coming over. I'll be there. Like, we're gonna have fun. Got to book a hotel still. Do that at some point. Maybe we should all book the same hotel, take it over, and have a wild one.
So the location for the draft as well is literally right in the center, and it's next to where they do the college football, where they put the big stands and Pat McAfee does his thing. It's right outside where that is normally. So very central.
It's going to be a good crack.
Columns coming coming down from.
Nice.
So there's a few,
isn't it?
Yeah. There'll be a few people I'll be annoying, asking them loads of fantasy questions while they're
there. As Harry says, Mugs, Mags, just need a Migs, Megs, and Mogs.
We'll find some of them in Dublin, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Murph's in there as well. So we're getting out all the M's. We're all going to be there. All the M's, even M from James Bond is going to be there. Don't hold me to that. No guarantees. But yes, thank you very much, Mags, for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Please do subscribe. We'll put links. It'll be in the collab on the top. Do follow his content. It's amazing. And go check out some of the previous work he's done. You'll see him popping up all over the place as we get into rookie season. Danny, you and I will be here with Colm next week. We'll be going through deliberately not trying to make this an Irish NFL podcast, but we are doing our best, bringing as many Irish people onto here as possible. And I look Irish, so I kind of count.
Yeah.
And I'm Murf, so that also works, even though it's not Murphy, but it's fine. We'll just pretend. We'll go with the bit. I'll try and develop an Irish accent for next week. But until then, Rush Nation, thank you very much for tuning in and your questions. Enjoy the draft. We will be back next week with some fun and hootenanny and all that malarkey. But until then, don't forget, as always, keep rushing.
Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.